Hello and welcome back to TNN's coverage of the world's 9 best fantasy football players league. I'm your host, and this is what we have for you this week. It's week 16 and the playoffs are now well underway as there are only 4 teams left remaining in championship contention. Commissioner Tooch has scheduled a message for next week to break down the draft order and give a nice farewell to the season. And now, here is Danny Football with his picks for week 16.
Hey, what's up, guys? World's 9 best fantasy football players expert, Danny Football here, back with another week of expert predictions. Last week, pretty good for me, going 3-1, bringing my total on the year up to a very nice 56-20. My guest, Jacob, also went 3-1, unfortunately, unable to beat the expert because, as we all know, the tie goes to the expert. But now, it's a new week. There's a new guest, a new chance for me to redeem myself. So, guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey guys, Miguel Manello here, defensive coordinator of the historic franchise, undefeated, never lost. Back to beat the expert. I believe this is the second time back in the playoffs. Obviously, a huge honor to be here. The opportunity to make you go 0-2, I believe, this playoff so far. It's going to be great.
Hey, last week was a tie, and as we all know, the tie goes to the expert.
Oh, really? Damn, I thought Jacob had a chance to go undefeated the whole year. That would have been kind of crazy.
Not quite.
To go like
If
10-0 or
Jacob did
something,
not,
but
if he did not pick his own team last week, maybe we'd have a different conversation. But
well,
Bloodsport and
here we
Beers did
go.
not
I'll
come
go
through for
6 and
him.
0. Yeah, sounds good. I'll give you a shot for your money.
Yeah, Miguel, great to have you here. Like you said, need a chance to redeem myself, and I think you need a chance to redeem yourself as well after that abysmal first round playoff performance last week. So great to have you here. This is all about the season of second chances.
You're very generous. All right, let's get going.
All right, first up, we have the Tex Arcana Bandits taking on the Judon Noodles. Bandits favored in this one at 55%. This one, first matchup for a reason. Both of these teams were able to successfully win their toilet bowl games, get themselves out of contention for being the one that has to do that punishment this upcoming offseason. So, not too much to talk about in this game. I really don't want to dwell on this matchup too much. These are two teams that were right there, right on the fringe of making the playoffs. So, it wasn't too surprising to see them lock up that first round win in the toilet bowl. The Bandits, I mean, what else can be said about them at this point? Fans of the show will know that I am high on the Bandits, and that is carried over week. I knew they were going to come through in the toilet bowl. This team's still very talented. Judon Noodles, on the other hand, a team I've been dogging on all year. So this is just like completely different worlds for me. I'm going to go the very clear pick here. One of these teams is much more talented than the other. I'm going to go with the Bandits to pick up the win in this one and secure that very nice seventh place trophy.
Interesting. You know what? I haven't done any research for this. It's going to be completely vibes based. It's been kind of funny to watch the Bandits journey this year because I feel like they'd be very frustrated right now if they actually were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Obviously Max Crosby's out the year. I forget what they I think have another player who is huge that I remember seeing that it's going to be out for a while as well. Kind of forgetting exactly who it is, but it's whatever. I still think this team is definitely better than the Judon Noodles. I think Timmy has to kind of go into a rebuild mode next year.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of like it's a terrible consolation prize for each of these two teams. I feel like they
Yeah.
both kind of had playoff aspirations, and now they're like they didn't even have anything to play for. This is completely boring.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think I'll agree with you. I'll go with the Bandits here just because I think they're the better team. But yeah, surprisingly uninteresting matchup between these two guys.
Yeah. But who would have thought week 16, Bandits, Noodles, seventh place game?
Yeah, well, can be you know.
Next up, we have Jesus Christ. It's Jay Sanborn taking on Worthy of Love. Jay Sanborn currently favored at 71%. Miguel, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
This everybody knows this should have been the toilet bowl. I'm actually
Yes.
very upset that these teams get to go against each other because obviously I have a stake on Will not being last place in this league. And it would have been nice for him to have to lose to both of these teams before losing
Hmm.
the before being 12th place. At the end of the day, though, this Tom's done a good job at tanking. His team is absolute trash. It has
Hmm.
zero redeemable qualities other than like Eric Hendricks, maybe. And like Jalen Wall is going to be out. I didn't even know that, so that's going to be
Yep.
terrible. Um, yeah, this is like I think Josh Allen might win this one like by himself against Worthy of Love. So I'm just gonna yeah keep it nice and simple. Say Jesus Christ, Jason Bourne's winning this one.
Yeah, that's a good pick here. You kind of stole my expert analysis thunder there. I was going to point out that Waddle is not going to be playing this week. The only good person on this Worthy of Love team, Tom, like you said, has done a great job of stripping it all down, setting himself up in a position where he can rebuild. Waddle, I think, is going to be one of those really good assets in the future, but he's not playing right now. For Jesus Christ, it's Jay Sanborn. They've obviously got Josh Allen. They've got guys like Gibbs, who with David Montgomery out could see a little uptick in his production. Not that it really matters here, but I'm going to agree with you here. I'm going to go with Jesus Christ. It's Jay Sanborn to get the win here and send Worthy of Love into the toilet bowl, where I think they're probably going to take it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
Next up, we have Blood, Sweat, and Beers taking on Team Big Chungus 22. Blood, Sweat, and Beers currently favored in this one at 56%. This one, we're wrapping up the toilet bowl here, have three toilet bowl matchups. I think this one is probably the most interesting of the toilet bowl matchups this week. The others are just absolute shit. But this one, the two teams are kind of on a similar level. Blood, Sweat, and Beers, we've talked about, they were kind of in the playoff hunt, kind of for a little bit this season. There's definitely some talent there on this team. Um, and then for Big Chungus, as has been noted, extremely unlucky season for them. I think the talent of this team does not reflect the record and the fact that they had the bye in the toilet bowl. I think this one ends up being really close, but given the fact that Big Chungus has had atrocious luck all year, and given the fact that it would be absolutely hilarious to watch certain owners in this league, instead of Will Trump, sweat it out next week, I'm going to go with Blood, Sweat, and Beers to pick up the win. And this one, setting up a very nice Team Big Chungus 22, Worthy of Love toilet bowl. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you here. I don't actually think it's gonna be necessarily close. I think Big Chungus.
But it's better
I
than
was
the other
actually
two. That's all I promise. Better than the other two.
That's actually fair enough. That's fair enough. But yeah, it's still a little bit more interesting than usual, if anything, just because of the fact that I might have to undergo the punishment if Big Chungus loses out.
Do you have
I'm not gonna
we'll get a little TNN inside scoop here. Did you get any provisions saying that Will cannot tank in the toilet bowl to make you do the punishment?
Yeah, I said that he had to pretty much put like a lineup out there that was kind of respectable. I don't think he had like to
Okay.
try or like hit waivers or free agency like crazy, but I was actually since I forget, yeah, when Evan Ingram went to IR, I was thinking about the fact that maybe he would accidentally start him and then that would be like a breach of contract in a way. Obviously,
Hmm.
Danny Football, you yourself, you understand breaches of contracts.
Oh, I know nothing about
So
breaches of contract. Right, you got to take that up with the judge.
with the judge. Well, yeah, I'm sure we would have had another episode. Will DeTremp would have been ecstatic to be in such a special episode of TNN. And presented his case against the judge. But yeah, apparently he clearly is putting a lineup out there. The bad news for me is that it consists of people like Kendrick Bourne, Noah Gray, and Jordan Atkins. Also
Hmm.
Gus Edwards, who fortunately got like almost a 20-point game, and his defense is not
Yeah.
that bad. Like Greg Rousseau going up against New England, it's not terrible. He always has like two or three really good linebackers. I still don't think it's gonna be necessarily close though, because Jacob has like a real team. Who I
Yeah.
think even played the teams in the playoffs would be scared of going up against. So yeah, at the end of the day, I really don't think it's gonna be necessarily close. I'm giving this one to Blood, Sweat, and Beers. I'm hoping yeah, I just gotta hope Team Big Chungus 22 pulls it out next week.
Next up, we have undefeated, never lost, taking on Too Many Conks. Too Many Conks currently favored at 63%. Miguel, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Obviously, this is a an interesting one. Yeah, just for some context for the viewers, obviously this is the matchup that is usually decided mainly by an agreement between the two teams. This year it's quite interesting because UNL holds Joe's first and second round picks, and
Hmm.
Joe holds UNL's second and third round picks. So if anything, we would like the other team to have the better first round pick or the better picks, right? We still haven't reached a conclusion as to what exactly we're gonna do. I think at the end of the day, we kind of both like our teams here, um, to the point where it's probably just gonna be defined by whoever wins this takes the seventh or the eighth spot in the draft, so that the team has a sixth pick or the seventh pick or
Hmm.
whatever. Um, but anyway, yeah, I think without Kamara, we have a few injuries that might hurt us a little bit. EJ Speed's out as well. You'll see. Yeah, clearly I'm not really into into the happenings of this team that much anymore. Damn, I should have started Cody Barton. Uh, darn. Yeah, I still think you remember me last year. I was very high on Joe's team. I still think it's not
Yeah.
managed that well. I think he should be starting four linebackers, at least three linebackers. I hate the idea that he starts a defensive back in his flex every week. He is starting people like Calvin Austin and Hunter Henry, though. I think this might actually be a little bit closer than usual.
Hmm.
But just in the interest of potentially keeping this close, because I know where you're going to go with this, I'm going to go with too many conks to win this one. Um, just to maybe give myself a little bit of a better chance at least running the predictions this week.
Wow, very interesting. Going against the own team here, especially in the playoffs. I feel like that's a very bold pick. I Look, I think your instincts are probably right here. Undefeated, never lost, as you mentioned. They've got a couple of the key injuries. Tyreek also banged up, a little questionable. So their in-season blockbuster trade with Big Chungus not really panned out. We'll see how that carries over into next year, but at least for this year, does not seem to be a super great trade for them. The Conks, it's been a roller coaster ride for them this year. They were low and then they were high, and I feel like they're back down low again right now. As you mentioned, they're starting some not great names in their starting lineup, both on the offense and the defensive side. So this one is really, I think, a little bit more of a toss up than a lot of people would think, just based on the reputations of these two teams. But with that being said, though, I really just undefeated, never lost. I think they showed last week that experience means everything in these playoffs. And if it's your first time in, it's really hard to get that first win. We've seen only teams with significant playoff experience do well in the playoffs. Too many conks, they've got a little bit more of that playoff experience than undefeated, never lost. I think it's going to be a very hard fall from grace for undefeated, never lost. I will give them props for making the playoffs, but I think it's going to be two quick losses, two quick exits for them. I expect them to lose this one. I'm going to go with too many conks.
Yeah, let's not act like this was a bad year for us, by the way. Made the playoffs for the first time. I will assure you that nobody wants to play undefeated, never lost next year. We're gonna have Brandon Ayuk coming back, Chris Olave coming back, Roma Dunze as an actual wide receiver two in the Chicago offense. Demarion Overshown maybe back at the end of the year. We're gonna be dangerous, and watch out for Kyle Pitts with Michael Penix finally taking Kirk Cousins' place
All
for the
right, all right,
Atlanta
all right. Next
Falcons.
matchup. Next
This is
matchup.
gonna be huge. We're gonna be so good. Trust me, bro.
Next up, we have Ham and Throw taking on the mental brick walls. Ham and Throw currently favored at 53%. This one of the two big matchups this week. We're seeing who is going to be in the championship game. This one, I'd also like to point out, whichever team wins this, it will be a guaranteed first time championship appearance for either of these teams. Neither have made it there before. Going to be very interesting to see how those teams perform when they show up. Contrast that with our other matchup on the other side, but we'll get to that later. These two teams, I think, are not really the powerhouses of the league that you would expect to see in these semifinal games. Some big glaring holes for both of these teams. For Ham and Throw, it's really just the entire team, like Swiss cheese lineup, big holes everywhere. For the brick walls, obviously the huge weakness for them is the quarterback position. Now, teams have shown in this league before that you can win without great quarterback play if the rest of the team is there. But I don't know if the Brick Walls are one of those teams that can rely on the strength of, say, a defense to really propel them without some of the top guys in, say, the quarterback spot. This one I think actually ends up being pretty close. I don't love either of these teams right now, but one of them has to win. And I think there's one team in this matchup that from top to bottom just has a slight bit of an edge on the other team. And if you thought even for a second that I was going to pick Ham and Throw to win a semifinal matchup, you are clearly not a fan of the show. I'm going to go with the mental brick walls in this one.
All right. I mean, I actually came into this with the strategy in my mind, thinking that I was gonna pick Ham and Throw because my strategy all the time is just try to differ by the with the expert by one matchup, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe um the SWAT team will beat Team Advantage. I believe the expert will
Oh,
side with
spoiler alert.
SWAT team in the next matchup. The problem is I'm scrolling through this and like even though I don't despise Ham and Throw um as you, Danny
I
Football,
don't look, I don't despise. I call it as it is.
I don't know. I mean, it's it would pick me a lot to actually pick this team because this trash talking that we got from him, even though we were so respectable, there's no reason why he should be giving us shit for not playing well in the playoffs, especially coming from a team that was in your division. But it's okay. Yeah, you know me, defensive coordinator. I'm looking at these defensive matchups right now, and from memory, I don't think either of these defensive line matchups is really good. DeForest Buckner actually is going up against Tennessee, could be pretty nice. But still, both teams with holes. I don't like Najee. Jameson Williams can be up and down, so can like Calvin
Mhm.
Ridley. Man. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stick to my strategy here, but I'm less content about it than I would usually be. I'm going to go with Ham and Throw very grudgingly, simply because I think they deserve a little bit more respect, and because I'm really out here to beat the expert. But you know me, I also love some brick walls, so I'd be really happy if they made it through to the next round. I just gotta look out for myself here. I kind of want to go 2-0 against you this year.
Hey, I mean, you could just agree with me on every pick. We both go 6-0. That's a win.
Have you ever gone 6-0? You're on the show every week. I don't
No,
think you've ever
no,
gone
I
to
no, I've
what are
not.
the I think I've done the math on this before. You could flip a coin for
Yeah, I
every
think
pick, and I think it would have
statistically
been
unlikely.
statistically pretty likely for you to, yeah, have gone 6-0 at this point at least once.
Yeah.
At this point, maybe twice, because it's been a while since I've done the math. You're an embarrassment to this network, and um if anybody should really be in the hot seat in this league, it should be you.
Look, I'll
You're a
say
fraud.
this. I got to keep a little suspense, you know? If I come out here and tell you exactly who's going to win every single week, like why even watch the matchup? Just come here and watch me. I strategically get some wrong every week.
Yeah, the argument is infallible, I guess. Yeah, there's absolutely no no refuse to that. You're absolutely correct.
You can't. You can't. Finally, in our marquee matchup of the week, we have the SWAT team taking on Team Mvanek. SWAT team currently favored at 53%. Miguel, who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, I guess I gave away my pick already by saying that my strategy here is going with the SWAT team. Honestly, though, I'm like looking at this matchup again. I kind of forget. I'll need you to fill in my memory, but because I believe last week I saw a few injuries that would have been pretty costly for SWAT team. I guess yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
Garendo and David Montgomery going to be out at least this week, which is quite costly. Obviously, Logan Wilson's still out; he's in IR. Debo
Mm-hmm.
Samuel surprisingly on the bench. This is very interesting.
Debo's been
Um,
very bad lately. I'll say it. He's been
Debo has
very
been pretty
bad.
bad. Um, yeah, but I mean, yeah, SWAT team is so deep that even with those injuries, like Chase Brown's been such a huge guy this year. Bucky Irving's been
Yeah.
looking great. Um, Not the greatest defensive matchups on the SWAT team side, but at the end of the day, I feel like this is just a team that becomes this really is the nines whatever's version of Kansas City Chiefs. It doesn't really matter what happens in the regular season. They always come out and they beat everybody by little, by a lot. They're always going to be in the finals. It's at this point, it is the SWAT team invitational. which is quite upsetting. Even though, I mean, you look down the side for Team Vanek here, they have some really juicy matchups.
Yeah.
I think this could actually be really close. I'm gonna be on the lookout for this. This is by far the most interesting matchup this week because I feel like in a way these really are the two teams that are most likely to win, or not most likely to win, but probably the two best teams that are still remaining in this league. I feel like the winner of this matchup should probably be favored in the finals. At the end of the day, though, I'm gonna stick to my strategy here. I'm gonna stick to history. SWAT team always shows up in the playoffs. Crazy depth. Respectable owner, unlike yourself. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna have to go with my gut here, and I'm gonna have to go with the SWAT team.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick here. Look, history has already shown us how this matchup goes. The SWAT team and Team Vanek met in the championship just last year. So, as I said before, we're getting a new team in the championship on the other side of the bracket. We're getting someone right back in on this side. And as you mentioned, the SWAT team, they've got a couple big injuries to the team this week. Garendo, David Montgomery, Nick Chubb got hurt. Things are looking a little shaky for them, but as you mentioned, they've got that great depth. That is always a strength of this team. They never have that true star power, but they've got like 20 guys who are going to go out there and get you 10 to 12 points every week. So this is a very tough matchup for any team, especially Team Vanek. It's a team that showed a lot of promise this year, especially last year. And I've really loved their growth arc as a team over the last couple of years. I think they're a very solid team. If they win this one, I think, as you mentioned, they're going to be, I don't want to say clear favorites, but I think they would be favorites in the championship game. Some may say that this should be the championship matchup. I don't know if I would go that far, but I think this is a very high quality matchup. It is the marquee matchup for a reason. I think, though, as you said, it is very hard to bet against the SWAT team in the postseason. I'm wishing Team Vanek nothing but the best. I know the league would love nothing more than for Team Vanek and the mental brick walls to make it to the championship game and knock the SWAT team and especially Hammond throw out of championship contention. I don't know if it happens though. I'm going to go with the SWAT team to pick up the win in this one, and get back to the championship for a fifth straight year.
I can't believe you're gonna win this again. It's so frustrating.
Miguel, it's been great having you on the show. I'm wishing you all the best of luck with your picks. Of course, not as good as me, can't beat the expert, but it's great having you on. Always love hearing your expert insights, and I look forward to seeing you back here next year.
Yeah, thanks. I'll be happy to be here next year. Hopefully I'll go four on like a 4 win stretch against you. They say you got ball knowledge, but I got ball wisdom. Something like that. I've heard that from numerous people in the league. So, and maybe Danny, something like that. But yeah, let's see what happens. I will say I think people might be supporting my picks just because they want to see a SWAT team versus Hammer Throw final just to see Hammer Throw get this close and then lose red at the end. That would be glorious. That'd be glorious.
And thank you, Danny Football and guest Miguel, for those great picks. That's all we have for you this time. Be sure to tune in next week to see how things shook out. I'm your host, and this has been TNN.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell.